I know some of, thank you, Conan. We just started recording. I hope that's all right for everyone. I know for some of you, you've been in the Generation Global Network and community before, some for many years, and so you're familiar with what we're going to talk about today, global video conferences. But for others, this might be your first time hearing about Generation Global. Perhaps you were invited by a friend or a colleague. So welcome. We're happy to have you as part of our Generation Global community. As you can see, it's a very diverse community, a very passionate community of educators. And just to give you a little background, Generation Global is a global education program with the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. And we focus on supporting learners ages 13 to 17 in developing the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed for global citizenship. And we do that through intercultural dialogue. So we are largely communication-based, and we're really seeking this outcome that young people that we work with are able to become active and open-minded global citizens in the world. And so that's really our focus. And we do that lots of different ways. We have teaching resources for you as educators. We have ones that can be modified for those of you that are working with primary students or maybe some older students for college readiness. And we also do that through different opportunities like our Ultimate Dialogue Adventure, which is an online platform for young people, but also our global video conferences, where we bring young people from all over the world together online, much like today in a Zoom sort of conversation for facilitated dialogues on global topics. And so today with me is my dear colleague, Angelica Santana. She is an education specialist with Generation Global. So a lot of the content that you might be familiar with, that you love, and the topics, that's comes from Angie's creativity. And she has a lot of experience when it comes to global video conferences. She has been doing this for many years, working in educational technology, and she's also the creator of a national strategy called Connected Multicultural Learning that focuses on bringing young people together in global online video exchange. So lots of experience, and she's here to share her tips and strategies and insights for how we can best prepare young people to engage in these brilliant opportunities for intercultural dialogue. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Angie and enjoy. Have a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. I'm connecting from Mexico. So here it's 8 a.m. I'm so happy to see that you're coming from all over the world. I see people connecting from Thailand, from Ukraine, from China, from Pakistan, from Ghana, from India, from Indonesia. So I'm so excited to be here with you. And well, if you're ready, let's begin. Today's webinar is around how do you prepare the learners to engage in global video conferences. So I would like to first talk about, give me a second here, talk about the central questions that we will be discussing today and having a conversation around. First of all, what are those practical steps that educators can take to prepare the learners for a global video conference? So these are things that if you're an educator or if you are, you know, in a group setting where you have young people ages 14 to 17 and you want them to be part of a global conversation, what do you need to take in consideration? Now, if you already have that experience, it's also important to have this information for you to take it into consideration, and perhaps there's something new that you can learn from today's webinar. It's also important to always have an environment where our young people can feel safe, can feel included, that they can actually have meaningful dialogue, and that it's an inclusive space for everyone. And it is also important to prepare the students, the learners, with the necessary skills so that they can really thrive when they participate in a global video conference. So now that we have these three central questions for today's webinar, I would like to briefly explain what are Generation Global's video conferences. So we are an organization, just as Lisa shared, and although we have several resources like the Ultimate Dialogue Adventure, we also have the opportunity to engage young people into the global video conferences. Now, what are those video conferences? These are online encounters where young people ages 14 to 17 can join from different backgrounds, and they share perspectives, they learn from one another. They are doing so by practicing the skills of dialogue, that I will talk about that in a second. And they focus on a specific topic that is connected to one of the SDGs. So there are several topics. We have around 16 topics today. And topics come from talking about inclusive communities, talking about education, talking about the future of work, climate change, peace and security, digital wellness, identity and belonging, among others. So they have the opportunity to really share their point of view, their testimonies, what they think about these particular and very important topics in the global agenda. These are sessions that are going to be facilitated by our trained Generation Global facilitators. So it's a 60-minute period. They connect at Zoom, and we're also going to share with you today what are the do's and don'ts of the educators when they are a part of video conferences. So that is also very important to take note of. So briefly, these are our global video conferences. And now I would like to ask a question, and perhaps one of you can, if you'd like, open up your microphone and share with us, why do you want to connect your group to a global video conference? So this webinar has also has the intention of being very dynamic. So if you would like to open up your microphone and share with us, I invite you to do so. Maybe you have already an experience, right? And you wanna share why did you decided to book your class, your group, the young people into a video conference, or maybe you're thinking about this, so it will give us an idea.
Can I, Ms. Angelica?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Actually, this is my second conference which I'm attending with my students. The reason why I selected my student to join this conference is to be aware how climate change is affected in different parts of their country, because our children are only aware in their community. So it gave them a lot of exposure.
Thank you, Mina. Thank you so much. So a very important topic, climate change. And no matter in which region of the world you are, and as young people, you should be talking about that topic, right? A very sensitive and important topic. Thank you, Mina. I also can read here in the chat that Hajiva is sharing with us to discover other cultures and background and to learn to be tolerant, right? And also Malini Vindra is sharing with us for experiential learning. So we also like to, as educators, bring the world to our class. And so global video conferences are a great way, a learning opportunity, a gateway for our kids, our students, to really experience having a dialogue around very, very important topics. I see Madiha, she's sharing to give learners an experience of connecting with different cultures and develop international mindedness. So another thing, we're also perhaps thinking about those skills that that our young people need to practice for the future of work, for having an opportunity to to be prepared for what comes in the university, what's it's being asked in the global market. So there might be several reasons why you want to do that, but I think in Generation Global, it is very important for us to really have students practice dialogue. We firmly believe in Generation Global that dialogue is an encounter that will provide young people with the opportunity to learn from one another, just as some of you have shared in the chat, and just as Nina shared with us, to understand each other's values and perspectives and experiences and even beliefs. So it's an opportunity for students to open their minds, to be more flexible, to practice having a conversation sometimes around very, very sensitive and even tough topics, but to learn how to manage even their own feelings, right? So it's also important in a dialogue that you feel very, that you feel brave, that you are in a safe environment, that as educators, you're promoting these inclusive spaces so that the dialogue becomes reciprocal and so that the young people can acknowledge their similarities, but also their differences. So having an opportunity to practice dialogue, and even if it's just for 60 minutes, it might be something that is life-changing for some of the learners that we have in the class or in the group, right? It might change their perspective of beliefs. It might help them even defy some stereotypes that they have about a certain region of the world. It might help them learn how other teenagers are experiencing the same issues that they face in their communities. So it's an opportunity to really, really work on very, very core values in our young society, right? All right. So now that we have that I've provided a brief introduction to what global video conferences are and what is the importance and maybe why do we as educators try to find these opportunities for our class. Now let's talk about those 3 tips that will make the most of a global video conference. Some of those tips are probably, if you already had a video conference in the past, probably you have already done that. Some other tips might be new, but these are things that are going to make the experience of dialogue very effective, but also it will ensure that you have a quality experience, that the teenagers are prepared and that they really make out the most of it. So first of all, you need to create a safe, brave, and inclusive space. And we will talk about that in a second. Particularly, there are a few activities that you can have with your group in preparation for the BC. Also, we have a lot of resources that educators can use to prepare the teenagers for the video conference, not only in terms of dialogue, but also in terms of the topics. So if you are really, I don't know, teaching economics or teaching language or teaching social sciences or teaching mathematics, you could also take a look at those resources and prepare the students for the dialogue on a specific topic based on what you're teaching. So that's also something that we are going to show you today. And of course, it is very, very important to reflect. Once you've had the video conference, the opportunity we have as educators to really see what are those takeaways, what are the outcomes, the learning outcomes that our young people received from having participated in a video conference, but also from having experienced safe and brave and inclusive spaces, and to also feel that they were able to speak, or maybe they were able to actively listen or use their critical thinking skills and really grab all the essence of what was being shared. So let's start with the first of these tips. It is how to create a safe, brave, and inclusive space. But first, let me just check if there's something here in the chat. If there's any question or anything, I will be checking the chat regularly just to see if there is something that you would like to ask me before moving forward. Yes, I see that, for example, Fefli, you have shared that video conference helps you develop a broader worldview of understanding global issues, and also to provide assistance and guidance and to prepare the students, I think. So how do you create a safe and brave space that is also inclusive, right, of every point of view or every opinion? It is very critical that you as an educator practice how those safe, brave, and inclusive space looks like. Because if your students, if the learners can feel safe about sharing their ideas, their beliefs, their perspectives, their values, then the VC it will be a success because they are already prepared, because they are not afraid to share who they are, what they think. So perhaps 1 week, 2 weeks before the BC, you are creating an activity, and I'm going to show you one that we really use, and it's called Our Rules for Dialogue, and it's really easy. It is not only helpful for having your students prepare for a global video conference, it's very helpful for having dialogue around specific topics in your classroom with your group. So the main objective of this activity is to enable the educator to build a safe space by creating an agreement around what is expected when it comes to behaviors during the dialogue. And it is something that could also be used as part of the rules in your group, in your classroom, about how you can relate to one another, about what is being perceived as good and what is being perceived as maybe not something that will be inclusive or safe, So this activity, you can find it in page 19 of the Essentials of Dialogue, which is one of our greatest resources. I would really invite you to download the Essentials of Dialogue. You can find it in our webpage, generation.global. You can also find it once you are enrolled in the Ultimate Dialogue Adventure directly from the teacher portal, where you can also find a lot of other resources that are ready to use. So this is what you would do. Just imagine that you are welcoming the learners into your class. They can be divided into a small group, and you can probably ask them to brainstorm, to think about those essential rules that they believe needs to be there for the environment, their class to feel respectful, and so that they can have an effective dialogue. So maybe they are thinking, they're brainstorming in small groups, and then when you bring them all together and you start to facilitate a whole class discussion, perhaps you're writing down those ideas, right? And those rules, right? So maybe some of those ideas might be something like, I'm not going to interrupt when someone is talking, or maybe it's more around, I'm going to think before speaking, or even I am going to challenge the idea and not the person. So these are some examples that might come up from this activity. And once they share their ideas, they propose their rules of dialogue, you can create a poster. Perhaps it's a digital poster, or perhaps it's something you can put on the board where everyone can see it, where everyone agrees that they're going to follow these rules. And it will be a guide for you, not only for the global video conference, but also for engaging in conversations that might be tough, that might be sensitive, that probably your class will have different points of view. So having the rules of dialogue is very, very useful when you really want your classroom to feel safe, brave, and inclusive. So I'm going to pause here before moving to the second tip. And as you can see, Shruti has shared in the chat the link from where you can download the Essentials of Dialogue, which is one of our greatest resources. So it's a very, very simple activity, as you can see, but it's really around learning how to communicate, right? About learning how to actively listen, about learning how to be respectful, and about having empathy, right? So these are some of the dialogue skills that that are the core of Generation Global. Please, if you have any questions regarding this first tip, which is how to create safe, brave, and inclusive spaces, you can place your question here in the chat. Or if you would like to share perhaps an experience of how you create safe and brave spaces, you are also invited to open up your microphone. So I'm going to give a few seconds just in case somebody else wants to participate. It'll be a great idea to know how you create safe spaces, if there is something that can be useful for everybody. All right, so perhaps if you're ready and if you would like to share, perhaps you can now write it in the chat. Aisha is sharing a meta discussion and breakout rooms. Good, it will be like through digital, a digital experience, right? Pallavi is saying, using simple questions to break the ice. I think that's also very good. And I think what Pallavi is saying leads us to our next step. Our next tip or our next strategy to have a quality dialogue in your global video conference is to prepare your group for the BC. And sometimes you're only using simple questions, right? You're only trying to have like this thermometer of how young people know about the topic, of how young people react when they hear that topic, of how much they know, right? So using simple questions might also be a great activity to help your students prepare for a specific topic. So when it comes to our second strategy for today's webinar, which is prepare your group for the Global Video Conference, well, I can tell you that you can find our educational resources in the teacher portal. So once you enroll into the Ultimate Dialogue Adventure, which now you are going to see the link here in the chat. If you have not enrolled yet, please do so. Consider joining Generation Global, reviewing our material, thinking about booking a video conference for your group, reviewing the topics that we have to offer. And you are going to find plenty of activities that can help you prepare your class for the Global Video Conference. Now, there are those activities that we offer and that I will explain that to you in a minute, but there's also the suggested agenda. And the suggested agenda are 3 to 4 questions that you receive once you confirm when the video conference is confirmed, and you receive that in your email 1 week prior to the VC. And you can prepare your group by reflecting and thinking about those questions. So it's always a good idea to have your students take a look, reflect, try to answer those questions. Perhaps the setting is a whole class conversation. Perhaps you would like them to think individually. So it could be a homework and they can write, you know. Perhaps it's an oral reflection that they can do digitally, or perhaps you are going to make small groups for them to reflect on those questions. So let's talk about the resources that we have, and I'm going to give you an example of one of those activities. So you can now see in the chat from where you can enroll to the Ultimate Dialogue Adventure. And in that way, you're going to have access to the teacher portal. Once you are in, then you're able to unlock and download all of the resources. So the Essentials of Dialogue, of course, is going to be there, but you also have it here in the chat. The link has been shared already. But there's also topic resources, and these topic resources are activities that are engaging, that are centered about a specific global issue or a topic, and that can help prepare your students for a video conference, but also help prepare your students for practicing the dialogue skills. So we have some resources like Difficult Dialogue in the Classroom. This is a great resource if what you're trying to do is to open up those topics of conversation that might be difficult or that might be sensitive, or that you know that there might be very, very different points of view. So there are a lot of activities that you can practice and do with your group in order to prepare them to have difficult dialogue. You can also have some other resources and download them. The rights of women and girls, climate change, which is one of the favorite topics, wealth and poverty, quality education, among others. So I really invite you to go into the teacher portal and explore what's there. These are activities that are ready to use. These are activities that might need sometimes only very few materials. You can use the board, you can use the class setting, and there's no need to some of the activities to print or to use like internet or connection. So there are a variety of resources that you can use, and it depends on what you really want to do with your students. So talking about a preparation activity, now that we're talking about this second strategy, maybe having the young people think about what are the expectations they have of the video conference, right? So maybe they're thinking about what they know from the other region of the world that is connecting, or that country or that nation. Maybe they want to, share what they know about the topic. Maybe they would like to identify similarities and differences, but in a sense, you are preparing them for what's coming. So you're talking about expectations. And this is a very simple activity as well, but it's very interesting for the students. So once you put that in practice, the students are surprised by what they know. Sometimes they know a lot, and sometimes they recognize that they knew better about that particular topic or that particular region of the world. So this particular activity has a worksheet. You can print it or you can write the questions on the board. And once you place those questions, some of them you can see them here, you encourage the students to think about the cultural aspects, the geography, maybe a personal experience they have related to that region of the world. So every time you're going to book a video conference, you can actually see which countries will be participating. So let's say, for example, if I'm in Mexico and I have a group of students that is connected, I'm able to see in advance if there are, let's see, perhaps another class is connected from Indonesia or from India or from Ukraine. So what I would like to do as an educator is to prepare them and to really think about what do you know about Ukraine? What do you know about Indonesia? Do you have any personal experience? So you get them to think, you're anticipating, and they feel surprised about the outcomes, right? So some of these questions are, what do you know about the region from where those students come? In what ways you think that they will be like you? In what ways are they likely to be different? So these are questions that really open up their minds. And once you have the group open and flexible to receive new ideas, they really come to the video conferences with curiosity. And that is something that we as educators have to cherish. We have to also take advantage of that curiosity, right? So having them prepared would probably make them feel more eager to share what they believe, to ask questions, to even challenge some ideas. So having this activity around expectations might be a good start point for your group when they are going to engage in a particular video conference. So the third step of this activity is, well, once they complete the worksheet, they can share the answers with the group. And this is even another chance to practice dialogue, because it might be that not every student has the same ideas, not every student has a personal experience related to that region. So once again, you're practicing dialogue before the video conference. You're not only preparing them for the video conference and the other group or group of students that might join and where they come from, but also that you're preparing them with the skills of dialogue, right? To really share, to actively listen, to think critically, to reflect, right? To communicate in a global environment. So great activity. And I would really invite you to check what else is there in the essentials of dialogue. This is what I was sharing with you about specific questions. Just as Palida said, she says, I prepare them with simple questions. So every time you book a video conference, it doesn't matter which topic you select. I'm using this as an example. We have a new topic in Generation Global that is called Inclusive Communities. And let's imagine that you book your students into that video conference, and you will receive an email 1 week prior to the VC once it has been confirmed. And in that email, you will find 3 to 4 questions that will help you prepare your students for the video conference. So in this particular case, one of the suggestions that we have at Generation Global is for you to perhaps start by handing them the questions or putting those questions on the board. And perhaps the learners are going to reflect about them individually. So if the topic is inclusive communities, the questions are, what does community mean to you? So this is a very personal question, right? They're thinking about examples and the way they feel and they engage in their own community so that they can come up with a definition. After that, they're thinking about what are the internal and external benefits of belonging to a community. So perhaps now they're thinking about their own identity, how they interact, what they see as benefits. So they are using critical thinking. And then you're asking, what do you need to feel safe and supported in your community? And also another question that is more around, how do you think dialogue can contribute to strengthening communities? So these 4 questions will help the students think beforehand about the topic in particular. And it would also be important that probably your group is assigned the topic of inclusive communities and the Ultimate Dialogue Adventure, which is our digital platform for learning about these topics. And perhaps it's going to take them 20 to 30 minutes to look at the content, to really understand how does an inclusive community look like, and other factors that create inclusive communities. And then they will have an extra preparation with the questions that I'm showing you right now. So the more you can do to prepare them, the more quality you will have in terms of the dialogue experience, but also the learning outcomes that they will receive. All right. So maybe coming back to this activity in particular, once you are you have the students reflect about these questions individually, maybe they can have a small group intervention where they share ideas, they identify common themes, they discuss any differences, and then they're going to share their insights. And once again, you are helping them to share, you are helping them to think critically, to reflect on what is being shared. So there's a lot of ideas coming and going, right? And now the students have heard a lot of information and a lot of different points of view from their own group. So they will be better prepared when they join the video conference. They will come with more information. Because imagine if you are just booking a video conference and perhaps you didn't have the time to prepare your students, or you didn't know what to do to prepare them better, they will probably come into the video conference and they might be shy at the beginning. They might not know if they can ask a certain question or not. They might feel afraid of being judged, or they might just not have any idea of that particular topic. So, of course, as educators, you don't want them to feel that way. So that is why it is super, super, super important to prepare them for the video conference, and also to prepare the context so that it is safe, brave, and is inclusive. So I'm going to check the chat just to see if there is anything else that is being asked or shared. So I see Kayala, and she's saying they're more confident to join discussions. Exactly. So you are trying to make them feel comfortable about sharing what they think. So you need to prepare them. There's no other way. The more you prepare a young mind to share with the world who they are, what they think, the more opportunities they have to do so, they become very, very confident. So why not thinking about these activities first, right? All right. Let's continue with the third of our strategies for today. So we have been speaking about the preparation phase, right? We have been talking about creating a safe, brave, and inclusive space. We have been talking about some examples of activities that you might use to prepare your students better. And now let's say you are in the video conference and you are an educator, you're there, your group is there, your students are there. These are some reminders that you should consider so that the experience is enjoyable for everybody. So what is your role as an educator? It's more of a do's and don'ts. Your role is to encourage. Your role is to motivate the learners. And sometimes we confuse encouraging, and sometimes we confuse motivation. So here are a few tips for you to consider. First of all, it is important that you join the video conference at least 15 minutes before it begins. Why? Well, because you need to test for the audio, you need to test for the camera. If you are in a group setting, it is better to have everyone, come and speak and see if the volume is right, so that everything is, let's say, from the technical perspective, there. That your students are ready, that you are, if someone is nervous or afraid, that there's no rush. You are doing it on time. If you have individual students, if you have your students connecting from their home or from their own device, and you are there, well, it's also important that you are, checking if they have their cameras on, if they are able to connect. So everything that comes before the VC. So maybe before the video conference, if you are in a group setting with all the students there physically, maybe you are taking a moment to review key points. Maybe you want to perhaps place the agenda questions in the board so that they can take a look at them, so that they can reflect. Perhaps you had an activity before and you have them have the notebooks or something in there so that they can take a look at what they already discussed and shared before. It is also important that if there is a question that is being asked by another student from another part of the world, to ensure that they have understood those questions. And of course, something extremely important is that you step in if you see inappropriate behaviors. So for example, if you see students are chatting or they're not showing interest, well, this is a chance for you to step in, because we always try to once again make everyone feel safe and respected. And sometimes when it is the first time for some students, they might have some behaviors that are not accepted. So the role of the educator here is super important, because they are the ones who are going to perhaps talk to the students, and make them think once again about how important and how useful it is for them to be part of the BC. If it comes to you translating the BC, our video conferences are in English. There are some that might be in Spanish, and there are in some other occasions in other languages, but it's mostly English. So if in a sense you need to translate, just make sure that you are doing so word by word, and that there's a way for you to really give a voice to your students, even though it might be hard, but just try to do it word by word so that we respect what they're sharing. What are the don'ts? What are some things that you should restrain yourself from doing? Do not leave them unattended. Once again, students from ages 14 to 17 is sometimes being a teenager, right? It might be hard for them to not feel, to feel shy or to feel afraid, or they might have, like we discussed before, inappropriate conduct. So it is good that you're there, that you're present the whole time. You should avoid answering for the students or even embellishing the responses. No, just let the learners have their own conversation. That is why we are there as facilitators. The role of a facilitator is exactly to provide a guideline for them to feel safe enough to share, to ask questions. So it's really up to the facilitator to really lead the flow of the dialogue, and not the teacher. So you should only be there and keep your eyes open, see if there is anything that your students need to be translated or to be explained further. Do not pressure them to speak. It's also good, sometimes in video conference, we allow silence, right? So that they're thinking that it might feel uncomfortable, but it's good. It's good to have silence. And of course, do not have learners memorize facts or scripts. Sometimes students come and they have prepared something on their notebooks and they start reading. And maybe it's the first time, okay? Maybe they are shy, maybe they are nervous, but it is better that they just share personal stories with no script, with no memorizing facts. So a natural experience instead. All right. Once you had the video conference with the students, this 60-minute period, you are there for them. They have engaged in dialogue with young people from other parts of the world. They are at the end of the global video conference. They feel excited. They are sharing with you that this was a great opportunity to learn from one another, that they didn't knew about these young people from another region having the same situation and even the same way of thinking as them, or that they didn't knew that this existed, or that they learn new things. Imagine all of the things that are being shared when they finish a video conference. It's really, really exciting. And for those of you who've already had this experience, I know you can relate with me. You really feel very enthusiastic about having brought this opportunity to students. So once the video conference has finished, now is the reflection part. So this is a great opportunity for learners to think critically about their experience, about what they have learned, all right? So I'm going to give you one example of a preparation activity. You can find this activity in the Essentials of Dialogue. And this is where an activity where learners can share their insights, can share their experiences from the video conference. So there is a worksheet, and perhaps you can print or you can write the questions. You can put those questions, cut it and put it in a bowl, and perhaps students can come, pick a question, read it out loud, and share. So some of these questions are the thing that I enjoyed the most about the video conference was, or through the video conference and preparing for it, I've learned about. And so in this way, you are really practicing critical thinking skills, but also reflection, which are skills of dialogue. And you are enriching their own experience, bringing into the classroom what they learned, what were their takeaways, what do they feel curious about, and even you are giving them the chance to think, I want to do this again, perhaps on a different topic, perhaps on the same topic, but now I feel more confident. This is what I have learned. And as educators, I'm pretty sure that we'll feel the same, right? If you're working with young people, whether in a school or in an extracurricular activity, you really feel passionate about those moments, those aha moments, right? When the kids are like, wow, I really learned from this. So this is something that will help you observe, right? So that is why it is so important to have a reflection round at the end. All right, so now it is time for you to share. And this is where I would like you to open up your microphone. Don't be shy. Or if you cannot do so, maybe you can put the answer to this question in the chat. What are those challenges that you anticipate? Maybe you're thinking about booking your group into a BC. So what are those challenges that you anticipate? Or if you have already booked your students in a video conference, what challenges have you faced? And maybe we can all learn from one another. If there was a particular challenge that you had and someone else had it as well, how did you solve it?
Can I never did this before, but I'm learning about it for the past few months because I'm teaching kids that are learning English, and I've got some kids that are very confident, that are almost native speaker in terms of speaking, but I've got also some kids that will be at an intermediate level. And so it's still very hard for them to express their opinion. So I was just wondering if there were other kids in those conversations that were also English learners and that would face the same difficulties.
Yes, that would be one. It could happen. It's possible. We've had those experiences. And from my experience, what I have seen is that when students, when English, for example, is not their native language, and it is the native language or the second language of the other class, they are very respectful and they really appreciate that effort at the end. So I think it's something that also is a recognition of the effort. So I would say, don't worry about that. It's a great way for them to start learning how to communicate, to lose fear, and to really center not in the mistakes you do when it's not your native language, but especially in the value of what you're sharing. Thank you. Thank you for opening up the microphone. And
Thank you.
Hi, Angela.
and
Hi,
Yes,
thank you,
hi.
Annie. This is Nusrat from Bangladesh.
Hi, Nusrat.
So I was listening to the whole conversation, and definitely these are really, really interesting. Please excuse my background that was set for my friends, but I couldn't change it because I'm still working. So I know
worries.
there are challenges like stage fright or speak fright in front of many people, personality attributes, communication, language barrier. Apart from that, I was just thinking about two very connected to logistic difficulties for these video conferences. One might be the one that I'm right now facing is it's the time zone difference, you see. In my country, it's almost 9. So it's almost the 9 at night, means almost our bedtime. Whereas in your country, it's in the morning. So the time frame of the conference need to be really chosen very, very constructively so that the participants can perform, all of them can participate and take part in the program with full energy and without any hassle. That is one constraint comes in my mind. And the other is the technical difficulties, internet becomes issue very often, the disruptive connectivity problem. Sometimes the video couldn't be turned on, sound disruptions. So these are some probable logistic support difficulties that comes in my mind when I think of this sort of conference.
Thank you, Nusrat. And here at Generation Global, we do have video conference all year round. And there are various time slots, sometimes 4, 5, 6 time slots in the same day. So it's a way for us to open up this time window for everyone in the world. And I know it might be that sometimes you're thinking, oh, I want to do, let's say, a peace and security topic, the video conference. And the good news is that you can anticipate, right? So perhaps you're thinking, okay, today is November and I would like to do this activity by January. So you go in the teacher portal, you go where it says book a video conference, you would see all the time slots and you can prepare in advance. So when it comes to the technical side, it really helps you because you know where the date is. You selected that date. You can anticipate if there is a technical issue, a challenge that you might encounter. You have time to prepare. You have time, of course, to create activities that foster safe and inclusive spaces, to prepare them for the topic, to prepare them with dialogue skills, and also to know that that particular video conference time slot that you selected really benefits your students. So I think that in a sense,
that's a great solution.
Yes, since we have
a
lot of opportunities, you are very welcome. A lot of opportunities to engage, you can anticipate those. But you know what? It's a very, very usual questions for as educators, right? So thank you, Nusrat, for bringing this on. So Shruti is sharing with us in the chat the steps to book a video conference. So perhaps you want to save that link or want to take a look at that. And as Shruti has mentioned here in the chat, we organize more than 700 video conference every year. So we have a lot of different time slots and different time zones. So it's good. You can choose whatever is convenient for you. And of course, you anticipate for that. So this is why we wanted to create this webinar, because it is all about anticipation. It is all about preparation. And we know that when we prepare, things are better, right? Even if there are technical issues, we can sort that out with time, right? So now we are in the last minutes of our webinar, and I would like to invite you to answer a poll before we leave and before we open up a brief question and answers round. These are just some of the steps that you can take when you book a video conference. First of all, you would need to register into the teacher portal. Once you register, which is a very, very simple process, you create your class by either uploading or adding your learners' emails to the platform, and then you can assign them a topic. We have 16 topics so far. So if there's one that you are really want your students to prepare or to know more, or that you can link that to the discipline you're teaching, you select that topic, and then you select and review the schedule that we have for those particular VCs on that particular topic, and you decide what's more convenient for you. All right. There's a question here in the chat by Kayala, and it's a great question. It says, will anyone from Generation Global be there in our conference? Yes, there is technical support. So that is why we ask you to connect 15 minutes prior at the minimum. And the technical facilitator will be there to check the audio, the cameras. If there is anything happening, we will help you sort it out. And of course, there's the facilitator. So there are 2 people from Generation Global in every video conference that are going to help you out. The role of the facilitator is to conduct dialogue, right? To take to be in charge of the actual video conference, right? The flow of the participation of the students. And the role of the technical support is to be aware throughout the video conference of any technical support that might happen. All right, so okay, this is another good question before moving forward to the last activity that we have for today. Lulwa is asking, how is it possible for you to manage all the attending students to share their thoughts in the 1-hour set? If you haven't booked a video conference yet, I really invite you to do so. Our facilitators here at Generation Global are trained to manage large groups, small groups, individual students connecting with a group setting in another part of the world, students that are native speakers, students that English is not their first language. We can manage diversity. And this is something that really enriches. This is also part of the experience. So you as an educator should not worry about that. We are trained to do so. We know how to manage also difficult topics that may arise. So yes, that's not something that you should worry. All right. So yes, Lisa.
Thanks, Angie. I just wanted to add very quickly to what Lulua asked and what you just said too. And also as teachers, not every student is going to speak in a dialogue, and that's okay. Some students are working on their listening skills. Some students are taking time to pause and reflect on what they're hearing. So there's a lot of different things happening for each of the students individually. We don't know exactly where individual students are. And so that's why it's important to not just do one video conference, but to really use this as an instructional strategy and try to do many with our students, because as they do more, they'll be more confident and they'll find different moments to speak and they'll have different things to share. So just remember, it's a collective experience. It's not always about every single student speaking. So just wanted to add that. Thanks, Angie. Sorry.
Thank you, Lisa. That's something super important. So before we leave, Canan, if you would like to run the poll for us. I know that we only have a minute left, perhaps, but now that you have completed this webinar, what are your next steps? So maybe you're ready to book a VC in the teacher portal. Maybe you want to teach one of the activities that you have learned today. Maybe you want to go and download resources, right? Maybe you review the agenda questions with the learners. Maybe you want to create, right, the rules of dialogue. So I really see that you're really into the activities and you're really into creating safe and brave spaces. And that is good. And that is something that I would really invite you to check our materials in preparation for global video conferences. We have a few other questions in the chat that I don't know if Shruti and Lisa can help me answer, because we are now at the end of our webinar. And I would really like to thank you for coming in on time, for staying in this webinar, for giving your points of view, for sharing your ideas in the chat, your questions. And I would really love to see you in a video conference. So thank you, everyone, and have a great, great, great day if you're starting, and sleep if you are ready to go to bed.
Thanks, Angelica. Thanks, Lisa. It was